Hey everyone! This week's video I want to talk a little bit about self-harm and self-injury behaviors. And the reason that I want to do this is because not only do I have a lot of people out there who have an eating disorder and they also have self-harm behaviors, but I've been hearing from a lot of you that you struggle with self-harm and you want more information about that. And in my practice, I also have a lot of clients who maybe don't even have an eating disorder and have self-harm behaviors. So I know that it's very prevalent. You're not alone. I have a lot of posts on my website every week about this, and so I'm making a commitment to continue to put out videos about self-harm, why we do it, where it comes from, and how we can get help. So stay tuned. So like I said, this week I'd like to talk a little bit about self-harm. And I know that before I've done videos talking about the motivation behind it and why we use it as a way to cope and how it kind of relates in the same way eating disorders do as a form of self-harm. But today I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper, and I want to recommend a few books because in my research, I know that a lot of therapists and a lot of clinicians out there are not as comfortable with self-harm and they don't understand it, and they can actually make us feel really misunderstood and really frustrated when we finally reach out for help. So part of what I'm hoping to do with my channel, as I'm sure many of you have noticed, is not only to talk to you, the people struggling with this, and all the different types of mental health problems that there are, and break through the stigma of it and make information more available, but I also want to create content that is helpful for other clinicians so that when we do reach out for help, people are knowledgeable and they're understanding and they really get where we're coming from and they've done the appropriate amount of research so that they can help us, right? So I know that's a lot to take in, but I'm trying to do a lot of things by making these videos. So today, I want to talk a little bit about why we self-harm. And I know that many of you do it for various reasons, and I know that I'm not going to cover everything. And I know that many of you are going to say, well, Katie, I don't do it for those reasons, and you're really wrong. And that's probably true. For you, it could be very different. But these are some of the most common reasons that we find out there. And one of the greatest books ever is a book called Cutting by Stephen Levenkron. I said that wrong. And this is really great for clinicians to read because it helps describe what it feels like to be the person who is using self-harm as a coping skill. But it can also, if you're out there and you're feeling misunderstood and you're a self-harmer, this can also help because it lets you know you're not alone, because there are a lot of people who do this behavior. And the first thing that I want to talk a little bit about is how the actual behavior of self-harming takes shape. And something that I think a lot of us lose sight of is the fact that our self-harm is usually a secondary reaction. So we have depression, anxiety, we might have an eating disorder, we may have OCD, we may have borderline personality, we may have a lot of things. We could have any diagnosis across the board, and we start self-harming as a result. Does that make sense? Now, usually, we will use self-harm as a way to manage things that have happened to us or experiences that we have had. And so we use the self-harm as an outlet for that. So that's why it's usually secondary, because whatever's happened to us may have created anxiety, it may have created depression, and we feel so depressed or anxious, we don't know what to do with all of those thoughts and feelings, and so we self-harm as a way to release that. And that's why it's secondary. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's kind of how self-harm develops at the beginning when we first do it or we first think about it. It's usually as a result of another diagnosis. Now, as it takes shape, and I'm going to reference my amazing book because this guy is awesome. If he's on YouTube, I would love to interview you because you're amazing. So he talks about the benefits of self-wounding, and he calls it self-wounding, which I don't know. I kind of like that. I like self-injury, self-harm because everybody does it differently. And an interesting fact that he talked about was the fact that men and women tend to self-wound in different ways. I thought that was kind of also interesting. Another video, right? So the first thing he talks about is pain as being the goal of our self-harm. And I know for many of you in my other video, I said it's not always all about the pain. And a lot of you were like, yeah, it is, Katie. Shut up. It is for me, right? And pain can be the goal. And he says that It's because, and I agree with this, if we try to insulate ourselves from all pain, we become numb, right? And many of us feel that. We've repressed all of these things that have happened to us. We feel really numb. And so we cut or we burn or we do whatever, we self-harm to feel that pain, to finally feel something because we've been so numb for so long, right? So pain is our primary goal. So that's one option of that he's saying, you know, the benefits that we find, the benefits that come from self-harm. Now, the next one is cutting or self-harming as an act of anger. And I find this to be something that I see mostly in my practice. I have a lot of patients who do this, and they actually use the self-harm to feel anger, to like experience the anger inward when we're really angry out. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of confusing. So if we're actually really angry at someone, let's say our mother is really emotionally abusive. She yells at us a lot and we get really upset. We're actually angry at her, but we don't want to actually hurt her or upset her because she's always upset potentially. And so we anger in. So when we inflict pain on ourselves through our self-harm, we're actually experiencing the anger, and that's our main reason, is to feel the anger and express it that way. Okay? Hope that's clear. And if you have any questions, as always, leave your comments below. You can follow me on Twitter and ask me questions there. You can hop on my website and post about how you related to this or didn't relate to this or whatever. And everybody's on there to help one another. So feel free to find me on all of my different fabulous 5 sites, okay? Now the next one is an act of self-medication. And this, I just have a client currently who is utilizing self-harm as this, and she's just started self-harming. And we all know that when we hurt ourselves, our body releases endorphins and adrenaline and all those like kind of feel-good chemicals in our body so that the pain isn't so bad. And it's actually a coping skill that our body has so that we can, let's say we fall down and break our leg or hurt ourselves, we can get up and we can get help. Right? It's a survival instinct. It's almost like the fight or flight and all those little instincts that our body has. When we self-harm, we still get the release of endorphins. And so the same way that an addict or an alcoholic of some sort would utilize a substance to like self-medicate for the pain that they feel, we can use self-harm in that way because we're self-medicating through the endorphin release. So that's another kind of reason that we might use it. And I hope that makes sense. That one to me makes the most sense. I probably because I have a current client that's doing that. And then the next one that this amazing book talks about is kind of the dissociative reason. And this happens a lot. Another great book, not to overbook you, the Courage to Heal workbook, which I've talked about before. People usually end up doing this dissociative self-harming as a way to cope with sexual abuse that's happened in our past. Or even physical abuse, just people who are kind of have been through a really bad experience when they were younger, and they will use self-harm because a lot of times, and I want to explain it exactly the way he talks about it. He talks about dissociative disorder and how it relates, and dissociative cutting. And so we will utilize self-harming as a way to kind of go away, and we will just we'll hurt ourselves or harm ourselves in some way, and then because of the pain and the endorphins and all the things I've kind of talked about, we will dissociate. And it's almost like a PTSD-like reaction. Our mind will associate the cutting with whatever's happened to us in our past, our abuse past, and it will immediately trigger that dissociative state. And it's kind of it's our own substance. I kind of think of this as almost like people that would utilize drugs to kind of go away. We utilize self-harming in that dissociation that we have to kind of take a break from what's going on in our mind, because it can be really overwhelming, and going through self-harm and going through an abuse situation, the self-harm is a way to actually cope with that and take a break from all of that negativity, all the horrible thoughts and memories that we have. Okay? So that's another reason. Now, the last one I really want to talk about is the person who does self-harm for, they call it the exhibitionist, that's what he calls it in his book, or secondary gain. Now, I know many of you are worried, like if I go in, someone's going to think I'm doing this for attention. I'm not doing this for attention. And many of us aren't. But there are some of us who actually self-harm as a way to show others how much we're hurting. And so by using self-harm and doing it in places like on our arms or legs where people may see it, and let's say we've just self-harmed a few days ago and we just wear short sleeves and we don't put any band-aids or cover up or anything, we don't do anything, we're in a way doing that to get attention for how bad we're hurting because we want people to know. And there's no shame in that. I don't want anybody to be embarrassed if that's how you feel, because it's like silent screaming. I tell a lot of my eating disorder clients, I'm like, using an eating disorder is silent screaming. We're so upset and we're going through so much. Our self-harm is us screaming for help, for anybody to listen, for someone to understand. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? And like I always say, leave your comments below. Let me know if this resonates with you. If you like me kind of delving deeper into self-harm and why we do it and what, how it develops over time and how we can get help, because there is help out there and there are great therapists and there are great clinicians there to assist us and to walk us through this and to process through. I mean, utilizing this if you've had abuse in your past, this is an amazing book. And having a therapist who will utilize that with you and have you work through it can really give us the relief that we're wanting. That's what the self-harm is all about. We're trying to find a way to express what we feel and what we're going through. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? There's a lot of people out there doing that and having a hard time expressing what's going on. And this is our way of expressing. So we just have to work through it and find a healthy way to express. Does that make sense? So stay tuned. I will be putting out more videos. I will be reading more of this amazing book. And there are also some great workbooks that you can hop in online and get as well. And I'll put these links down in the description, as well as there is a widget on my website. If you go to katiemorton.com, it's an Amazon widget, and I link a lot of the books that I talk about so that you can find them easily, because I haven't written any books on self-harm, but I'm working on that kind of thing. But these are great tools that I use as a clinician and that I also refer my clients out to. So make sure you reach out and get some help, because there are people out there who can listen and offer support, and our community is growing. We are all here to listen and offer support. So keep working with me, and we will keep fighting the urges together towards a healthy mind and a healthy body.